Studying psychology and becoming a therapist ruined my mental health. Okay, that's an exaggeration, but it negatively affected me. And there are reasons why I stopped becoming a therapist. And one of those reasons is because of the lack of consistency between my cultural values and the values that I was expected to uphold as a therapist. What do I mean by that? There are some things that are culturally acceptable, but therapy tells you that it's not. So like, they would label some things as toxic that are quite normal and common in other cultures. So like, a parent who insists that their child doesn't talk back to them, that's culturally normal in a lot of cultures. But Western psychology expects parents to sit down, have a conversation about emotions. I spoke to an Albanian student at one of my schools that I worked in, and I told him, why don't you ever talk to your parents about what they're doing to you, like how they make you feel, what their words are doing to you. And then he just laughed. He laughed at me, and he said, "You think they care? Like that's not even a concept to them. It doesn't matter to them. Like even if I've talked to them before, and they just laughed at me because it's so ridiculous to them to sit down and talk about emotions. So in some cases, it just doesn't apply. And another thing is, you would think that by studying mental health counseling, you would become better at managing your emotions. You would think that therapists are really, oriented, and they know how to control anxious thoughts, and because they have all these tips on depression and anxiety, how to lower it. But that's actually not true. In fact, they might be worse at it because they're overanalyzing everything that they think about. They're thinking about their thinking. So it's metacognition. When you're thinking about your thinking all the time, then you're managing so many thoughts at once, and you tend to lose track of things, or you tend to make mistakes, or you tend to become too anxious. Like, I noticed that I've become more forgetful. I've been forgetting simple things throughout my life, like simple tasks, like, did I finish, I don't know, did I wash that plate that I left in the sink? I thought I did. Or, did I finish that assignment? I thought I did. I forgot about it. But it's because I'm thinking about so many things at once that I leave certain things out. These therapists who you think are so wise and mature and able to manage their emotions, they have their own therapists. And the goal of therapy is also one of the goals of the field is to have more people enter therapy. And that sounds like a good thing, to have people understand how to manage their emotions, how to understand, being empathetic, understanding what people are saying to you. That sounds like a good thing, and that is a good thing. I agree. But to insist that everybody subscribe to the Western approach of psychology is not just, because at the end of the day, there is no objective morality. There's no clear cut, this is right and this is wrong. Because you could have a client come in and say that they're cheating on their wife, but you can't say, are you crazy? You can't say, maybe you shouldn't do that, that's not the right thing to do. You're not allowed to say that. You have to explore that idea in a way to try to convince. The goal isn't even to convince the client that they're wrong. The goal is to make them feel emotionally stable. So you're trying to make them feel good about their decisions, even if they're bad decisions. And that, I found, was a moral quandary. It's like inherently problematic. You can't outright tell somebody that they're doing the wrong thing, even when they're doing the wrong thing. Now you might say, but that's just your moral viewpoint. But basically everybody in the world will tell you that cheating on your wife is a wrong thing. I mean, except for modern people who think having an open relationship is a fun thing. But that's another story, right? So I understand that people want to be in touch with their emotions, and that's a good thing. But overanalyzing these things, I would never subscribe to that, because that is what anxiety is: to constantly worry, to constantly think, and to not be able to turn that off. I used to be able to think about my thoughts, and then when it gets too much, I used to just like switch it off. I don't need to think about it anymore. I just shove it to the side, and I'm fine. It's not bothering me. I mean, some people might argue, oh, it's going to affect you in some other ways. You know, it'll come out in the form of this or that. I mean, I would debate that over analyzing my emotions and not being able to think clearly is way worse, right? So that's like one of the main reasons why I began to doubt my career path as a therapist. It's like, I thought I was working to help people realize what they're doing, to help them feel heard and understood, and to, work with them to a better future. But really, what you're doing is you're supporting them and you're listening to them, and the client's feelings are divine. What the client thinks is the most important thing. What you think doesn't really matter. You're supposed to be listening more than you're speaking. Mm-hmm. So the client is divine. And I found that to be a moral quandary. And then, of course, there were personal things that were going on. I was trying to get married, right? And I was going to a private school, and that private school was very, very expensive. It was like, say, like $25,000 every semester, so like $100,000 in total, right? And the quality of education that I was receiving was not worth $25,000. So, I began to think about whether this was the right choice. And I was working as a substitute teacher, and I enjoyed that more. Like, it was more fun to be with students, even if it was doing somebody else's lesson plan. And I thought about it logically, like, okay, well, I'm not a huge fan of this field, because I had done sessions where I would actually practice and act out as a therapist, and do sessions where we would mock therapy sessions with my classmates, etc. So like, I had experienced it. I had done field work, some type of experiential work. And then I realized the third year of my program would be completely unpaid clinical work, and I'd be $100,000 in debt. And if I were to get married, then that's not really a great thing to carry around. There are a lot of financial questions that come out of that. So I wasn't a huge fan of the field. Financially, it was posing a big trouble, and getting the right loans was also very, very difficult. So I began to reconsider my thoughts. And after leaving the program, I've noticed that my mental health has not gotten worse. I mean, I've become better at managing my emotions and my thoughts. And what did I do after that? Well, I'll explain in the next video. All right, I'll see you guys later.